Welcome to That UGC Mum Podcast, the user-generated content podcast for mums who want to have it all. I'm talking about the feminine urge to be there for your kids at the drop of a hat, never miss a sports carnival, but also the feminine urge to build a goddamn empire. Hosted by me, Xanthi. Are you ready?
Okay, listen, ladies, I think this is a really important thing that needs to be shared. So, my first year in UGC was a fucking bin fire. There's no better way of describing it. It was just me learning as I went and making mistakes and just not knowing what I was doing, questioning all my life choices, thinking that I was really bad at it. And learning. It was a real baptism of fire. But then I survived that first year and I thought about quitting so many times. But then there was the second year and stuff started to click into place a lot more. I realized where my energy drains were and where my energy gains were. I realized that there were different kinds of agencies that you could work with, and the ones that I'd been focusing my energy on were really not worth my time. And there were just new ways of doing things. So then it started to flow. Then my third year in UGC, oh my God, it made everything so much more worth it. It's easeful, it's spacious. And the reason for that is I've got my bank of regular clients. I'm confident in myself. I know how to negotiate the bigger packages. I know how to negotiate retainers, the stuff that gives you space in your business. And also the really fun stuff that you don't even think of being really a possibility in your first year because you cannot see the wood for the trees. But, the fun stuff, that there is passive income in UGC, and those come in the form of rolling usage rights. So, if you've got an ad that popped off a year ago and the client wants to keep rolling on those usage rights, you don't have to do anything. You just send an invoice and you get paid for it. So I think that's really cool. So what I'm just trying to say is that if you are in the pits of despair and you are in the beginning of your journey and you're thinking about giving up, please do not, because it's meant to be hard in the beginning. It is hard in the beginning. You're finding out if it's right for you. You're finding out if you've got the minerals for it, which you do. And you're also just being tested by the universe, if you like that kind of thing, whether this is a path you want to commit to. So if you are at the point where you're thinking, okay, time's up, I'm going to throw the towel in, I'm just not cut out for this, I just want you to think of this one question to yourself. I want you to picture 2 years into the future, or even 10 years into the future. Picture 10 years into the future and think, so you're going to quit UGC and go back to whatever it was you were doing before then. How does that woman carry herself? How does she think? How does she feel? How really does she feel? Is she satisfied in life? And then conversely, think of if you held on to UGC and fought through it and committed 10 years down the track. How would you feel then, having built something? And look, I'm going to say you have no way of knowing what doors are going to open for you and what's possible in that 10 years in UGC. You really don't. But, if you were just staying how you were now in UGC and growing, how would you feel? And I just really want you to sit with that, because I don't want you to give up. I really don't want you to give up.
Okay, I'm glad I got that out the way. I've plugged my microphone in as well, if you hadn't noticed. And today I would really like to delve into the topic of the 7 habits of highly effective UGC creators. The 7 things that all those girlies who are killing it, I can guarantee you they're doing these things. But first of all, I'm just going to tease you a little bit because first of all, we need to talk about my holiday, right? I just got back from holiday. So I spent 3 years, guys, my brain still hasn't thawed out yet. I would have loved to have spent 3 years in Indonesia. It was only 3 weeks. And it was really the first holiday that I've had, proper real holiday I've had, whilst trying to run my little freelance UGC business. So I really want to talk about it because, as UGC creators, it's not actually easy to take breaks. We can't just call in sick. We can't just book a holiday and leave it. Like we need to work it all out. And the way that I tackle that really is I always put a buffer into my week. So I always make sure that I have underscheduled my week. So I don't cram my weeks to the rafters, because what if something comes up? Like, the whole reason I'm doing UGC is so I can be there fully for my kids. And also if I'm sick, then I've got a buffer. If they're sick, I've got a buffer. But anyway, so I had this 3-week holiday coming up, and I'm really proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself with how I organized my way around it. And this is just segueing on from what I was talking about before, how, if this holiday had happened in my first year in UGC, oh my God, I think it would have killed me. I think that would have been the end of my UGC career probably. But because I'm at the point where I am now and I've got systems in place, and I never knew I had it in me. I really nailed it. I'm not saying it was easy. So the weeks before leaving, that was a lot. That was intense. Just trying to get everything organized. I scheduled so many emails, and I also, the biggest thing, this is the biggest thing that I was proud of. I organized my work schedule, like my UGC jobs, like a weapon. So I made sure that when I was taking on any new jobs, about a month before I was leaving, saying, look, I'm actually fully booked until X date. Is that going to work? And not only did that make me look cool and busy with my clients, it gave me a lot of breathing space. Like, most of them were fine with that. So it was really nice to know that I could go away and I had pipeline booked in for when I got back. So I'm really happy with how that went. I am going to say, though, that when I was away, I couldn't fully switch off and relax. The business never really sleeps. I definitely needed to check in on it every day. I had emails and stuff, but, just a little half an hour touch point, which was so manageable. And it was actually really nice to be able to stay in touch with my business as well. So for me, that was really interesting because I'm one of those people, not sure about you, who just really loves the idea of the digital nomad life, having a internet job where you can take it anywhere. And if you're an OG listener of the pod, you will know my dream, and I will do it. I will do it soon. My family, we'd like to sail around the world, and I don't want to give up UGC to do that. I've found my calling. I've found my passion. I love my job. I wouldn't want to stop it. So I would absolutely want to continue with it. So my long-term plan is to build a really strong base of service-based clients to be able to do UGC for while I'm away. So I don't need to wait for product. Things like, if you're sailing around the world, things that you can promote, really, travel insurance, marine products as well, marine services like marine insurance. So stuff like that. And there is so much. Also internet services, and VPN services, all of those things. So I'm sure you catch my drift. When I was on holiday, I wasn't planning to, but I did take a couple of things away with me. I was planning to take one away with me because it was sunscreen, and I thought, well, what better backdrop than a beautiful remote Indonesian island? So I did that. But then the other one I did not plan to take with me. It just, I thought I could squeeze it in before I left, but I couldn't. It didn't arrive. It arrived the day before we were leaving, and I just couldn't get it in time. So I had to take it with me, but it was no dramas. So I think all in all, just trying to shoot a couple of products out there was fine. But people did ask me, oh, have you reached out to any accommodations? Are you going to do any accommodation collabs? And to be honest, I couldn't think of anything worse. I just want to enjoy the places that I'm staying. I don't really want to have to film them. And I don't know. Maybe there are people out there who've done it and they're just like, oh my God, it's so worth it. But for me, I'm glad that I didn't go down that route. So yeah, we went to Lembongan Island, which was beautiful. I have actually never been there before. I've been to Bali like more times than I could count, and I've stayed there for a year once before. But Lembongan, beautiful. Like what Bali was 20 years ago, I'd say. And then we went to a really cool little place called Rote Island. It's sort of next to East Timor. It's quite a remote Indonesian island. You need to get a couple of planes from Bali. I mean, with 2 kids under 4, that was crazy. But I think it was worth it. It was breathtaking. You don't get to see places that raw and rugged very often. And I mean, how many palm trees is too many palm trees? And how many sunsets is too many sunsets? So I am a very happy little toasted coconut right now. Had a very cup-filling time away. But straight back into it. We got the red-eye flight, arrived at 6 a.m. on the Friday morning, and it is raining cats and dogs in Sydney. If you are from Sydney, my thoughts are with you. It's horrific, isn't it? But we had a little bit of reprieve over the weekend, so I was literally straight back into it. Like I said, I built pipeline, and I had 3 videos that I need to get across by the end of this week. Well, 3 jobs actually, like 3 actual separate gigs, so not just 3 videos, multiple videos. And I had to shoot those straight out the gates of the weekend, so that was fun. But it feels good to get that done, off my plate. And then I 100% need to put a shout out to my VA, because I have now been working with my VA for just over 3 weeks, so just under a month. And I honestly, I don't know what I did without him before. It's been awesome, and especially on holiday, when I was needing a little bit of support with stuff and getting stuff scheduled and reaching out to brands and stuff, he was there as my lifeline. So I was actually feeling pretty smug about that. It's just pretty cool knowing that when you're sleeping, your business doesn't sleep. Like, someone's there to help. And like I said, when I've given that a really fair test, I'm absolutely going to do a whole episode on outsourcing and what I've learned from the whole thing. Because if you are an OG listener, you'll know that I've already learned a few lessons from trying to do this before. But this one seems to be going really well. So I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to sharing my feedback on it, but hopefully also some tips if you're someone who's thinking about taking that step. So, like I mentioned before, in today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down the 7 core habits that separate UGC creators who are winging it from the ones who are consistently booked, rebooked, and building a business that lasts and just feels so good. And these are habits that I've personally built and rebuilt as a busy mom, UGC creator, and a woman with big dreams. and a limited number of hours in the day to get all this stuff done. So let's dive into the rituals, mindsets, and systems that make all the difference. So number one, the first habit is they treat it like a business, not a hobby. They're not just posting content, they're building a brand and they're building resonance. They have systems. So they are tracking all the brands that they talk to. They are tracking their pitches. They are tracking their books. And more importantly, they manage delivery timelines. So they are always invoicing on time and they're always paid because they have follow-up systems with their invoicing. They're not winging it. They show up like a professional, even if they are in their slippers. So yeah, it's less I make cute little videos from them and more I run a fucking business. They don't have a Gmail email address. They've created a real legit one. They've invested in systems. They invoice through Henry because they know that that tiny little investment is just going to take so much off their mental load, off their plate, so that they can actually focus on the stuff that really moves the needle in their business. And yeah, suffice to say, a couple of years down the track, or even less than that, they might look at outsourcing. Okay, so habit number 2, they nurture their client relationships. So they're not chasing new clients every week because that's just a recipe for burnout. They're turning one-off jobs into long-term partnerships. And when they do a job for a client, they are rolling the red carpet out. So they are taking the job in with an absolute fine-tooth comb. They are asking all the right questions so that they can turn that into the perfect concept. And then once they've delivered that to the client, you want to bet that there are little bonus surprises inside there, be that a couple of free B-roll clips, an extra hook, or some UGC photos. And then after that, they follow up, they check in, they ask how the campaign's going, they ask for testimonials, and they really care about how their content performs. They don't just take the money and run. They ask the client for testimonials. Then they come to the clients with more ideas when they do follow up. So they get repeat business. The client keeps coming back again and again and again. And the feeling that the clients get after working with this creator every time, they think, okay, that was easy. She understood me. She asked the right questions. She really gets my business. She loves my business. And man, that content converted because of all of those things. And I want to work with her again. And I am going to recommend her to all my ecom mates because she's the bomb. So pro tip, make your client feel like they're your only client, even if you're juggling 15. And keep reminding them that you exist. All right, habit number 3, they lead with numbers. So it's strategy first, vibes second. They don't just say, I make engaging content. They show performance. They put their money where their mouth is. They show the client exactly how previous videos have been converting. They explain to the client which similar industries or products they've worked with before and how they intend to create content for that brand that is going to pop off. And more importantly, they always come with solutions. So if there is a piece of content that doesn't quite hit the mark, they're really accepting of that. They're accountable for it because they appreciate that content is not an exact science. So sometimes you risk it to get the biscuit and it doesn't really work out. But they are unruffled by this and they look into the numbers even if they're not that pro in it. Like I said in a couple of episodes back, you can ask ChatGPT what it all means. You can fake it until you make it, but even still, they can look at the numbers and go back to the client and say, okay, this is probably where it went wrong. Let's change this up. They are creators who think like marketers, and brands notice. And in the sea of thousands of UGC creators out there, if you can be one of these ones, you're going to stand out. Okay, so habit number 4, they sharpen their skills constantly. UGC is such a new industry and it's so fast growing. So hard to keep up. But at no point do they think, oh, I'm a weapon at UGC now. I can just coast. I know everything. They learn, they test, they evolve. And even if they're at the level of coaching, I'm telling you now, all good coaches have coaches. All good coaches are coachable. If you think that you know everything, then really you know nothing. So these girls are really curious and they're always hungry to improve and to learn, and more importantly, to be proved wrong, to be open to new ways of doing things. Habit number 5. This can be a hard one for a lot of people. They stay in their wheelhouse. So they don't force content styles that drain them. They don't force working with brands that they don't align with just to make their portfolio a bit more diverse. They know what they're good at, what lights them up creatively, and they double down on that. Because when you feel good creating it, the energy shows. You don't need to be a chameleon. You just need to be unforgettable in your lane. Less but better. And I'm not trying to say that to be successful, you need to be a no niche creator. That is by no means what I'm getting at. I'm trying to say, if there are things that do not feel good for you, move on. Do not force it. You know, I'm guilty of this in so many ways. For a while, I was pitching to beauty brands because I thought, oh, how nice, how beautiful, you know, how gorgeous, drippy beauty content. I'd love to give that a go. Pull yourself together, woman. It is just so far away from what I enjoy creating, what I'm about. Like, I don't even really, I've only really just started getting into skincare right now. Just, I guess, because I've just got a bit older and I can't just get out of bed and chuck a sundress on and call it a day. It's just not cute anymore. But that doesn't mean that I need to start guising as some kind of beauty creator, because that I'm not, and that I will never will be. In fact, I did my first and last Get Ready With Me on TikTok a couple of years ago, and somebody commented on it, the way that you applied makeup hurt my soul. I have since gone to Mecca and had a makeup lesson to rectify that. And, you know, there's a lot to be said for trolls. Like, she really, you know, she did me a favor. I had no idea you weren't meant to apply foundation with a powder puff. So yeah, thanks, babe. Thanks for your scathing words. They actually built me up. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is go in the direction that you feel called to go in. Go where lights you up. If it doesn't feel good, if it feels forced, run. Habit number 6, and this is a really important one that I think so many UGC girlies really overlook. They lead with ideas. The top 1% of UGC creators don't wait for briefs. They don't wait for retainer inbounds. They bring the brief. They go to brands with bold ideas. They pitch retainer concepts and they tailor content suggestions to the current campaigns for the brands because they've asked the right questions. And this is what I was saying about nurturing client relationships. If you can date your clients so much that you know so much about them and you know what kind of content pops off for them, then the ideas are just not going to stop. You know, if you're doing UGC, you're a creative person. So you're going to have bucket loads of ideas and you're doing a disservice to your clients if you're not sharing those with them. And if it is a long-term client that you trust, they're not going to steal your ideas, then you can certainly go to them and say, hey, I've got this idea for a retainer. How about you lock me in for 6 months, for 12 months even, be cheeky, and we're going to do this, this, and this. And I think that it's going to drive X, Y, and Z results. We can hit all parts of the funnel with this. And you can just have so much fun with it. Like, how fun is it coming up with all these creative ideas and then going to a client who you love and seeing them get excited about it, and then seeing the content come to life and seeing it pop off. It's a whole journey, and it's so rewarding. And it really is what gives you staying power with your clients, and again, what sets you apart from all the other shitty UGC creators who are not on your level. They just wait for work to be given to them. You know, if the mountain doesn't come to you, you go to the mountain. Okay, and the last and final one, habit number 7, they have their UGC besties. They have their community. UGC can be lonely as fuck, but effective creators don't do it alone. They got their besties. They find their UGC besties. They share their wins. They share tips. They share commiserations. Because do you know what? We were talking about this with Liz on the pod last week. You can't share all your gripes on your social media because you don't want to look like a Debbie Downer, because you're going to repel your clients. So where are you going to do that? Where are you going to rant? With your UGC besties. Also, I was speaking to one of my UGC besties today, and she was just asking about her rate card and, you know, like, can she see mine and what do I reckon about hers? And we were just talking about how it's really rare that you get to see other UGC girlies' rate cards, because they're pretty under wraps, because most UGC creators don't want to share them with their clients until they've done the pitch or negotiated the package. So it's just so rare to be able to see one. So it's nice to be able to have your group of besties where you can share information like that. You can cry together, you can celebrate together, and you can meet up. How good is that? And, you know, it becomes less about comparison and tearing each other down and more about collaboration. Because when one of us wins, we all do. And I know that sounds really cheesy. One thing I really do want to highlight, though, about UGC, and I don't know if I'm just in a really lucky corner of the internet, but I am blown away by UGC girlies. I feel like we're a different breed. We are so kind. I am yet to meet a cruel UGC creator who is just nasty. She gatekeeps. She tears other girls down. She's not there. Bring her to me if you know her. But we're a good bunch. So go you girls. So yeah, you do not need to do this in a vacuum, girl. Build your kitchen table of creators. So, dream girl, why don't you try one of these on and build your foundation one habit at a time? Because success in this game doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing the right things consistently. All right, that's enough from me. I love you so much, and I'll see you next week. It was such a pleasure to be in your ear holes this week, Dream Girl. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just letting you know, this is an indie podcast that I do out of the goodness of my own heart and for the pure joy of talking about everything UGC. No marketing budget, no sponsors, no team, just little old me. So if you are loving this podcast and you want me to keep going with it and make it better and better every week, either share this pod with one of your UGC besties, leave a review, or subscribe, and I will be so grateful. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week with another pod.